we get into the topic, I want to understand a little bit, what does career growth mean for you? What is career growth? Anybody want to share? There's no right or wrong answer. Promotion. Maybe there's anybody submitting anything on chat. Is it only promotion for you?
More about the knowledge that you can get from the working experience.
Okay, working experience, gaining knowledge through working experience.
Higher salary.
Higher salary. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, I chose this topic when the admin team reached out to me about what topic I would like to share with the group. I started to think about career growth because in my experience leading teams, what is the number one thing that my direct reports always ask me? It's all about how do I grow in my career, or even during interviews when I'm interviewing new candidates anywhere here in Catalan or my previous organization. One of the questions that candidates ask is, what does the career growth look like in your organization? How do I grow in my role? So I know that this is a topic that's very top of mind for everybody, and I wanted to share a little bit of my journey with you today. And I also invited Thanh because I know that his experience is also a great example of how you can grow in your career, and it's something that you can emulate. But before we do that, a little bit of introduction about myself. You all know I lead the customer success team here at Catalan, but prior to Catalan, this is actually my 4th startup here in Vietnam. I moved to Vietnam back in 2016 and worked with different startups in different industry. And prior to that, I was working with a multinational company, like big company, 50,000 plus employees, global company with offices worldwide. And today I have over 17 years of experience, I would say, the last 8 years in startup and leadership roles for like 11 years. And I'll tell you a little bit of my story about like my career trajectory from when I started later. But like I said, I think I'd like to share and see if any one of you could resonate with it maybe. And also I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. But now I hand it over to my co-host or co-speaker here for an intro as well.
Thank you, Angeline. Good morning, everyone. Good evening. So let me introduce about myself a little bit. First of all, I would like to share that I really appreciate the time here in Catalan. Okay, I cannot believe it's my 3rd year already, and it's going to be the 4th year. But this is my 3rd company in Vietnam. In my first company, I spent 17 years in one company. It's boring, right? But actually, it's not. And that's also a very good example I want to share with you guys why I can stay in a company for 17 years. Okay, I graduated from IMIT Vietnam, one of the very first students as a software engineering. Then I do internship in that company for 6 months, and then I joined as full-time as a software engineer. Okay, very different from that, software engineer, and I be a programmer for 7 years, and then due to one event, I switched my career path, which I will share you guys what is that event, because it's very important and it's very exciting to share. And then I transitioned from IC role, software engineer, to a team lead. And then for team lead role, I spent 3 years as the team lead, and then I moved to business development role for about a few more years. To be honest, I don't remember. And then after business development role, I moved back to people management role for about a few more years. And then after 17 years, I see that I need to find another environment. So I joined my second company, a very different company compared to my first one, which was an international company. So I moved to local big corporate FPT. And just after 1 year, I found a very good opportunity in Catalan, and that's where I am here for 3 years, and I hope that it will be many more years. Okay. In my session later, I will share some more detail about the topic, career switching. I can share more about the detail of that. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, let's go over to the next slide. Actually, forget what's the second slide here. Okay, all right. So I asked about what career growth means for you, and if you are looking for a promotion, looking for a raise, looking to get better at what you're doing, I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today will resonate with you. So earlier I said that a lot of the questions that I get from my direct reports, even from candidates that I'm interviewing, is all about how do I grow my career. And I think that the misconception, and I just learned this over time as I grow in my career, is that the misconception is that it's the company's responsibility to really create that opportunity for growth for you. Of course, there is a responsibility for the company to create an environment, a framework, and a system for you to thrive, to evolve. But ultimately, really, career growth, if you want to grow your career, it has to come from you. It is you who has to direct that growth. It is you who have to take action. And today, a lot of the things I will share is how do you take action? Because I know there are limiting factors, right? And I think that's where, how your company supports growth, how your manager supports growth. Those are some of the limiting factors that may come into play. But ultimately, you are the driver. You're in the driver's seat. You are driving this path to growth. Can we look at the next slide? And so that's why if there's one thing that I want you to take away from what I'm going to talk about today, is that it's very important for you to be proactive with your career growth. Like I said, there's so many ways for you to be proactive. I remember having to realize this myself because I moved from company to company. So I cannot put the responsibility of growth in a company because you change companies, you change roles, but what's constant is you. What is your career goal? What do you want to be? And you really taking a deliberate steps to get to where you want to be. So let me tell you a little bit of my trajectory. I actually started my early years in support. I think I shared that when I joined the team, and that's why support always has a special place in my heart. I started in the support team. I moved into an operations role, and then I moved into a client-facing role as an individual contributor. And then I moved into a team manager role. And then I moved horizontally to a different department, and still in a client-facing role, but back to an individual contributor. And then I moved back into a team manager role, and then I moved into a startup. So I resonate with what Thanh said. My first year actually is with one company only, 9 to 10 years in that one company. But you saw what happened to me. I went up, I went to the right, I went horizontally and vertically across the organization. Which is, I actually credit a lot of my early experience to where I am today, because a lot of what I learned in support and operations and all the client-facing roles I have shaped me as a professional and as a leader as well today. And all of that is because I was proactive with my growth. So let's go to how do you become more proactive. I don't want to talk so much about growth mindset. I feel like it's so cliche. We already know. Always have a growth mindset. We know the importance of that. But on the next slide...
so maybe before we go to the next slide,
yeah.
I want to emphasize your proactive idea here.
Yeah.
What I want to share is we are on board people, right? And learning, to be honest, is very difficult. a manager cannot ask you to learn. Okay? Learning something, it must come from you first. And otherwise you will see it very boring. For example, my team, I push them to learn, take certification for many months, but it did not happen. But later on, when they see the value and then they feel it, they just do it in a few weeks. So proactive is very important and must come from you guys first.
Agreed. Because learners, adult learners, and like maybe child or adolescent learners learn differently. When you're in school, like you have no choice, you have to learn. When you're an adult, you're working, like there's always other things that come as a priority, and like I don't have time for training certifications. I like, learning, quote unquote. But like I said, it's a deliberate action you need to take. Like you need to have that inside you that I want to do this. And typically for adults, it's like, what's in it for me? Why do I need to learn this? And it starts with that. So that's why it's very important that you know the path you want to take. And I know the question is, what path? That's actually one of the questions I heard. So what is the path that I need to take? And I think a lot of people, especially, I think the younger generation, they see that based on my observation working with team members from like different, I'm a millennial. We're millennials, right? What is the youngest generation now? Like that is in Cameroon, Gen Z. I feel like they expect more of themselves. They want to soar high very fast. At least that's my observation. Correct me if I'm wrong. And oftentimes they're like, first 2 years of their career, they feel like, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm lost. So a lot of the things that we'll discuss about is, also what trajectory, how do you set that path for yourself? So, speaking of learning, okay, I think this is one of the first things that you can take action on to be proactive. A lot of people think that learning is just about attending trainings, having some certification. It's actually just 10% of how learners or adults learn. 20% actually is learning through your peers. You learn with your colleagues, working with your colleagues. You learn from your manager. Maybe you work with a coach or a mentor. Those are other ways that you can learn. And I actually like to leverage that network around you of people who can give you feedback on where you can improve. But actually the larger part of this, and I think this is where there are managers, people managers here, there is this responsibility on you as well for your team, right? 70% is learning through experience, like what you mentioned here earlier, that career growth for you is about what you learn through your work experience, and because really that's 70%. So like I mentioned, there's where this is where the manager can help you can help your team grow, understand what are their strengths and weaknesses, what do they like to do, and assign them tasks that relates to what are the skill sets they want to improve on, or related to the career trajectory that they want, like where do they want to be, or at least just develop some skills. Because in the beginning, to be honest, my university background is languages. Like it has nothing to do with SaaS, with customer success, customer experience, nothing. So my university degree technically doesn't count in any of what I do. A lot of what I know now, I learned through experience, not from my university degree. So it's also okay in the beginning when the reason why my language, background in university helped, because my first role was support for like French-speaking company. I do speak French, but not very well anymore. So I know that I don't practice anymore because I don't use it in my day-to-day life. So that was like my entry point. And then from then on, I got stuck in the tech world. And I was lost a little bit. It was because like, when I was thinking about my university, I was learning languages, and like, I'm gonna be an interpreter, or I'm gonna work at the embassy, or be a consul, or something like that. And totally changed the trajectory with that first move and my entry to the corporate world. But also, I wouldn't change a thing, actually. Like, I'm happy where I am today, and hopefully, like, the next tips that I will share help you to understand as well, like, okay, how do I take action? Because, like I said, learning through structured programs is something you can control, right? You can sign up for any online course right now. We have just launched our LMS system. You can learn a lot through, like, the courses that our team puts there, and that's something that you can start immediately. But then 20% and the 70% sometimes are not within your control because, for example, getting some challenging tasks for your manager, like it's very tough. It's your manager decision what they would assign to you, right? And so here are things that you can do on the next slide. But before we go, maybe Thanh has some feedback here.
I have a question for you guys. On this slide, is there any special thing get your attention? If you pick one item, any idea what is very important for your career path? Pick one. One item? Okay, good.
Certificate.
Certificate?
Yeah.
Any other idea?
I think more about 70% learning from through from the working experience because I think my mindset intent for this one more, even though because I like everyone here and career switch in my career.
Okay.
Even though because I'm very indoors, but I'm working in the human resources and doing many things in the marketing field.
Yeah.
So I think everything from myself right now, I'm learning more from the learning, the working experience. But I know that with the 10% here, every single one, especially in the Asian culture, people need to really focus on about how to get a certificate and how to get it from the background, school, and everything like that way. So I think if you want to have a career swap something like that way, just go by to learn the course, the learning course, based on the foundation. You think that you fit with that one first, and like that you can find another job that can fit with your experience.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And actually, I agree with that. The purpose I asked is certification. Okay, certification, even if it only 10% here, but it's very important for all of us. Okay, for example, Vicky, you want to have a higher salary. Okay, certification is one of the reasons you can ask for the pay raise. Okay, and if you want to grow in your career path, if you want to move to another organization or another industry, the first thing they will look at your CV is the certification. Okay, so that's why I encourage my team member to get certification because it's recognized by the external people, by our client, by our manager. Okay, and of course, learning is a lot of activity, but please pay attention on the certification. Thank you.
Let me play a bit of a devil's advocate to that because, like I said, if anybody just looked at my formal studying, nobody would have hired me for my whole languages. Then what are you doing here? My first role was in a fintech company, so finance, and I have no idea about finance. But like I said, right, it does have bearing because I don't know if it's an Asian thing. It's an Asian culture. We attach a lot of importance to degrees, certification. But I think also generally speaking, this is not to look down on certifications because there is worth in that, definitely. To have a certification means you've proven. So even in our Catalan certification, right, and that's why I like Catalan certification. It wasn't just about completing training videos. It's also about what they did, like what they have achieved using our product. So that's why I like that element of actual experience and certification. But I think, especially for career movers, when you want to go into a new field, that's typically your first step to feel like I deserve to move this because I have this knowledge, and you would get that through certification. So yeah, a little bit about that. Okay. Let's go to the next slide, because I want to talk a little bit more about the tips, right? Because I keep saying, well, there's a lot of the things around my career growth that I can control. For example, does HR have a career framework for me to follow? Or does my manager support my goals? This is where proactiveness becomes so important. So first off, you have to initiate the career conversation. To be honest, I fail as a leader. As much as I try to always think about that, I talk about my team on one-on-one about career growth. I try to always infuse it in my one-on-one on a quarterly basis, but sometimes you tend to focus a little bit more on my feedback to them, and this is a conscious effort that I have to do, that I need to talk about what do they want, are they still in the right path, and this is our responsibility as a manager, to a people manager, to our team. But also for you, if that is not happening, you have to take the reins and you have to initiate the conversation. You have one-on-ones with your managers, right? You need to be very open about, how can I grow in this role? And like I said, and I think this is why I asked again, what is career growth for you? Because it's not always about just promotion, right? It's also like, how do you grow within your current role, and then get good that you are now able to go to the next step and get that promotion. So I would encourage you, like, what are the opportunities available to you? And I've worked with startups before. Typically, startups actually is where you have a lot of growth, because the startup, especially if you're one of the first hired in the team, the startup's gonna grow. But also at some point, the growth may not be as exponential as when you started, and this is where a lot of people get stuck and feel like, I'm not growing, I don't really see an opportunity above me. The only way that I can get a promotion is if my manager resigns, because then I move up to a manager role. And it's not really always the case, and that's why I like our dual. Maybe you're going to talk a little bit about that. I don't want to encroach on that, but the dual, you can grow as an individual contributor, and then you can decide to take also the managerial people manager path. But again, it starts with you having a conversation, because if your manager doesn't know, then also they don't know how they can provide an opportunity for you. So I actually recommend, if they say, oh, I think there is an opportunity for you to move to the next step, take that opportunity to say that I'd like to create a development plan for us, so that I know what are the milestones I need to hit, what I need to work on, let's say in the next quarter, in the next half year, in the next year, for me to be able to get that promotion. So you really have to steer the conversation towards that. So that's this first quadrant here. And then as you go through, right, let's say you created a development plan with your manager, you have to also constantly remind them about what you have achieved so far based on that, because obviously day-to-day operations will always take precedent at the end of the day. And the thing is, it's not because we are deprioritizing career growth, it's just that there are other pressing things at hand that happens, and we don't want them to forget that, oh, we are working towards this development plan, and these are what my achievements are. For example, on your one-on-ones, I actually recommend creating a document with your manager that you share with your manager and attach in the calendar invite, which shows all the notes of your one-on-ones. And put a section there, because that typically you would use that note for agenda, like to understand like what you want to talk about with your manager, or what your manager wants to talk with you during a one-on-one. And then maybe it's part of the agenda on a monthly basis, maybe bi-weekly, weekly, whatever that may be. You put there, oh, these are what the things that I've accomplished in the last, since our last one-on-one. And share success, big wins. Maybe for the client-facing team, some citation from a customer who was happy with the work that you've done for them. But then also bring a new idea. I know this, like I said, so I being proactive, it's not as easy as just having that initial conversation. You really have to follow through. So bring a new idea. The point is not to bring an idea just for the sake of it. It ties back to my next quadrant here, which is find solutions to challenges. Here's also the deal, right? For a manager, and I'm talking about my own personal experience. I know that somebody is ready for a promotion when I see them not just thinking about their own work, but thinking about how they can contribute to the larger team. Because it's not just because I just don't use that as a benchmark for promotion to become a manager. It's just, that's one of the hallmarks of growth within your profession, right? At the beginning, it's all about you, how do you gain as much knowledge as you can. The moment that you look outward and think about, oh, how can I help my team? That's where I feel like, okay, this person is ready because he's now able to look outward and think about how he or she can contribute to the larger good. And that's why finding solutions to challenge is one of the ways that you can start to think about that. Maybe you have identified a process in your team that's like actually not working, or is too much, it's taking too much time to execute, or you feel like it's not effective. This is an opportunity to bring that up to your manager, or maybe even in a larger team, right? Like in your team meetings. And then the next step is that on top of just sharing that, oh, there is a problem to this, like this process, you're also providing opportunities on how you can improve that, recommendations or ideas. Maybe you say, okay, let's set up a project around this. And I would like to lead it, which leads me to participating actively in the workplace, like volunteer on projects, participate in projects or lead projects, and collaborate cross-functionally with, like I said, not just looking inwardly to how you can improve, but also looking out to your team, but then even better, looking out for the whole company, like how can I contribute to the company? And really actually, for me, this is a mindset thing, right? When you're still thinking about yourself, and I understand that's how it is for early, in your early profession, early years of your profession, and then the moment that you start thinking about how can you contribute to the larger team, that's where I feel like, oh, this person is ready potentially for a promotion. Obviously, you have to have some skill sets as well to back it up, but that mindset shift is so necessary to that career growth, like accelerating the career growth. And then the next step is the moment that this person starts thinking about how can I contribute to the good of the whole company, is when I like feeling, okay, maybe I think this person could be ready for a people manager role. Because now you're really going beyond just your team, like your whole small community, and really thinking about, okay, like a larger, like you have that big picture mindset. So these are the things that I think, and personally, have helped me throughout the years. And I'm telling you, the showcase your achievement ideas, I actually appreciate it from my team. Because I tend to, PA happens every 6 months. There's some things that happen within the 6 months. It's actually very good for you to showcase that on the PA, right? Like these are the things that I have accomplished. And it's a great reminder for your manager. Oh, wow, yeah, I remember, she did this, he did this. This is the feedback that she has received, great feedback. It is always good to remind them. It is not to brag that, oh, I did this, but really, we forget. I personally forget sometimes. So I really appreciate this from anybody who puts that and shares that with me. And then actually it's a click in my head, okay, I know this person is ready for, like that next step. And this is a lot, right? And you're like, oh, I have to do this, I have to start a top manager, I have to do development, I have to be always front and center, I have to always be putting myself out there. It doesn't have to be something you need to do like in the next month. My career growth, 17 years now. So there is no timeline that you have to stick to for me. But these helps you get there. And that's why the title of this is Accelerate Your Career Growth. You really want to really get to that next level fast, then work on doing this as soon as you can maybe. But like I said, there's really no proper timeline. At the end of the day, it's about you. And one thing that I failed to show here is that it starts with an introspection of what do I want to be? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do for the next X number of years? And there's always a question that gets asked in interview, what is your short-term goal? Where do you see yourself in the next 1 to 2 years? Or where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? It's actually a legitimate question to understand, okay, where's your mindset right now? Where do you want to go? And do you have a clear idea of the path that you want to take? Now, before I move on to the next step, any feedback you want to share, like from your experiences all the time?
Yes, I do. Actually, I totally agree with this one because I used to report to Angeline, and we go through this process. I think for at least 1 year, and we follow it, and finally I got the promotion. So I highly recommend you guys to do it properly. And one thing I want to add that the promotion, from my point of view, it should be driven from the employee, okay, not the team lead. You guys need to plan and follow the plan. The manager is there to support you to get the promotion because they manage many people, and sometimes the manager cannot define the path, the promotion for you guys, but you guys need to own it, learn it, and get it. Okay, so we can fully own and manage that process. Yeah, that's my recommendation.
I know some of you, again, going back to what I said, maybe there is, as you mentioned, what is the opportunity for me? There's actually no opportunity to move to a people manager role, but maybe there's an opportunity to grow within your role. So that's why I like the framework again. I go back to that individual contributor path, and the people management path is actually a great way for you to still experience that growth, like not just in the growth in like change in the title, and salary as well, but helping you to continue to move up, even though you're not managing people. Because honestly, moving up is not just about managing people. I've worked, and there's one person in my early career as a team manager that I couldn't understand. He didn't want a promotion. Like he didn't want, like his next step in his career is just to be an expert in what he does. And I always thought when I was young, to be promoted means to be a team manager. That's my next step. And I couldn't understand this person, and I realized that just over time, as I've learned a little bit more about like career framework and all of that, that there's no one way to move up. Like you can stay in an individual contributor path, and that's why from a team manager I moved back to individual contributor, and that wasn't a demotion for me. I actually was very happy, and I learned a lot in that role. It's just a different path, but you're still, I guess, climbing up is the metaphor for that. Okay, which brings me to a question, the next slide, because I think in the early stage of your career, it's very easy for me to say all of this now in hindsight after, more than a decade of experience. But when I was also starting out, I didn't know what I want. Like I didn't know what was the next step for me. And so this question's now with generalist versus specialist. I moved a lot when I started because I didn't know what I want. Like in the beginning, I was in support. I said, I didn't want to stay in support. I moved to operations, and every time I always ask the question, is this what keeps me excited to go to work? Does it also play with the strengths that I have, with the things that I like to do? And so in the beginning, I was more of a generalist. The first, let's say 4 years of my career, I was a generalist. Like I have no specialty. I was moving, like I said, across even different organizations. But and maybe what I like actually about that organization I was working with, they actually also have a program. They have a kind of like how do you call this, high potential employee kind of program where I showed it earlier, job swaps. I was able to actually, the opportunity was, if you were part of that program, you can go into the other departments, learn a little bit about the roles of the other departments. And that actually helped me figure out, like, what do I like to do? What are my strengths? Not necessarily what the trajectory I want to take in my career, but just understand myself. Like, what is it that I like to do every day, or I will be passionate to do every day. And so I went through this generalist versus specialist role. Like, when did I start to specialize? Like, deliberately specialize? 8 years ago when I moved to Vietnam, and I realized I want to be in customer success. And that, by then, I was already, 9 years of my career already. Although probably like the latter of those 9 years, I was already doing the customer success role, but it never really clicked with me until like that pivotal moment where I moved from a big corporation to a startup, and I enjoy the work that I do. And so that's when I deliberately because I would get a lot of offers, because here in Vietnam, there's not a lot of, back then, 8 years ago, there's not a lot of English-speaking professionals in Vietnam that has that international experience. I would get a lot of outreach from HR. Hey, we have a role in sales, we have a role in operations, but I deliberately turned them away because I already knew what I wanted at that point. I was not exploring anymore. When I was young, I would just jump into the opportunity. That's why I was okay to move from one department within my company to the other. But then once I said this is the path I wanted to take, I specialized on that, and until now, I see myself doing customer success for the foreseeable future. But yeah, how about you, Thanh? You take generalist. Right.
I think now I am more generalist, but I want to add a few things here. In Catalan, one of the things I really love is we have a dual career guideline. I mean guideline, because not many companies have that guideline as a North Star for our employee to define the career path. Here we can clearly pick if we want to go to people management or IC. And from my experience, we are a product company, okay? Meaning that there are many opportunities for the IC role where you guys can develop and become a specialist role and highly appreciated by the company. Even myself is a director, it sounds high, but I really respect our engineer in the IC role because they have many hack skills, and the hack skill, to be honest, is much more difficult to gain than generalist. Okay, so if you decide to go for IC, let's stick with that and persistent. Okay, because if you highly skilled in specialist IC role, there's many opportunity and you can go very high. For generalist, it sound easy, but it also there's some limit, okay, and the number of opportunity for generalist is also limited. Yeah, that's my sharing.
It made me reflect about my journey as well, because the moment that I decided the path I want to take, this is actually when I moved up. Prior to this, I never was higher than a senior team manager or manager of managers. And the moment that I specialized, it was actually easier for me to move up because I know that this is the path that I wanted to take too. But yeah, moving over to you, Thanh, and I know there's a lot of exciting things that you wanted to share.
Thank you. So my topic to share with the team today is career switching, because I think this is something I go through many times. So I want to spend this great opportunity to share some experience to the team here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. This is one of the most questions I suggest you guys keep asking maybe every quarter or annual, that should we switch the career path? Okay. Can I ask anyone here that has experience in career switching? I mean significant switching. Okay. Can you share why you decide to switch the career path?
Honestly, that I found myself not matched with the rivers knowledge experiment, because the moment when I had 4 years in law, honestly I read a lot of law and I really enjoy my reading. But the moment when I come to the law firm and I come to the course and I figure out that nothing fair in that course anymore. So the moment I still remember on the first day the secretary in the course asking me about, do you have any relationship with the one in this course anymore? I said no, I just apply for him. by myself. So I figured out, I can make it to this environment. So I switched my career path in supporting in operation team. And after every role in the operation team, I figured out that I still find out that yes, the marketing side is still more interesting with me because I think I am the one who cannot sitting in the office 7 days a week, or I cannot lock in myself in a box or something like that way. So I find out the way to learning in a new one. And I agree with you that I found a school to learning about marketing. Honestly, that didn't I'm not caught anymore. But yesterday I evident to say that yeah, I'm learning about that one. And right now I switch to the way more about the marketing. And from the marketing field, I switch come to the action development to do the marketing for the action. Right.
So, what's the difference between the first job and your current job?
Actually, I think it's not much different. It's not. It's just the way how I leverage my skill. Because in the first job, I'm doing more about the operation, like supporting, handling the tasks in that way. But right now, I'm still doing my specialty. I still standing behind and support everyone. And I think the core is still the supporting role. I'm still supporting everyone. But the base is not the base, but just the title and the workflow is just how we are showing face. I just show up my skill with everyone more, not standing behind.
Okay. How about every day coming to the office now and back to your old one? Which one make you more happy?
I think right now it's not really like that way. Honestly, I'm not really intent with the one come back to every single day like that way. Because I say with that, I'm not the one who sitting in the office 7 days a week. No, I'm not the one like that way. Because I'm still remember when I were in previous company, even though it's a manufacturing company, but my manager said that you can go anywhere you want. Just deliver the task for me, and I'm the only one in that department. Never show up in the office, but I can say that I can deliver my task right now. But I think that when the environment change and things change, you have to change yourself. And I had to spend around 2 or 3 months here to adapt with the back to the office. Yeah, but I think I get you to.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Yeah, actually, there's many reasons why we have to switch the career path. But one thing I want to share, the reason why I switch many role and career path, because whenever I see I cannot create any more value or gain the value from that role, then that's the moment I ask myself, is that job still suitable for me for at least 4 or 5 years? Okay, so the key word I want to share is the value. Okay, I still remember one of my mentor, he shared that you better to pick a good job career path because you will spend more than 8 hours per day with that job, more than with your wife. Okay, so make sure you pick a good job and you feel happy, you feel energized when you come to office, and you enjoy it. Not just it's just another day, come to office to finish it. Then if you feel that, then it's the bad signal. You need to think because it will just waste up your time. Okay, so if you still enjoy and with your current role and you're happy, then it's a good signal. But if you see that you cannot create any more value or get value from that, then you should think about it. Now, I will go back to the event that I shared, why I decided to switch from a software engineer to people management, because it's very different. And the event happened is I was a software engineer. I sit in a corner for 7 years. I do my job very well. I and my team develop hundreds of e-commerce websites. Every new one, every month, I got higher salary. I got many more benefit, but I still an engineer sitting in a corner. Okay, very different from me right now. Not many software engineers can have a public speaking, right? They tend to work by themselves. But during one time, we use the team building, okay? And instead of hiring agency to do it, our manager asked, why don't we organize by ourselves? And anyone volunteered to organize the team building. And at that point of time, I just feel boring. I volunteered to organize the team building for 150 people. Wow, you should know how difficult it is, right? And luckily, that event helped me to find another me. Okay, I had to review all people in the company. I had to contact all of them to understand their need, why the last team building failed, and what we can do for the whole team to make everybody happy. Okay, so during the preparation of the team building, I learned that I'm not good in the engineer, but I think I'm also good in organized in people management, and I want to go outside of my corner. Okay, and from that moment, I see that I have to switch the career path. I don't want to do the programmer anymore. Okay, and after the team building, luckily the manager see the success, and they switch me to manage the customer support team. Okay, from an engineer to lead the 20 people, just after the team building. So in another slide, I want to share about if you want to switch the career path, you have to take risk. Okay, you have to take responsibility to grow. Okay, those are the two things you have to do when you want to switch the career path. Okay, so Nguyen, if the company want to do the team building, I encourage to ask engineer to join. Okay, it will help the collaboration a lot. Okay, so okay, I go a little bit fast because I think I want to reserve the time for Q&A. Another thing I want to share is skill you have to grow to success in a tech company. So I already talked about the attitude, but I want to spend a little bit of time about the hard skill. Okay, many companies encourage people to do the soft skill, improve it, but in a tech company, hard skill is very important for every role. Okay, especially for Catalan, we are luckily in a product company, so I think all the people in the company, no matter which division, you guys should know about our product. You guys should know how to use our product, okay? And you guys should learn about the industry, the testing industry, because it will help you in all the conversation. When you have chance to talk to another team about our leader, then if you have understand about the product, it will help you a lot. Okay? Imagine you are in a discussion and we are talking about stereo, but you have no idea how it runs. It becomes your weakness. Okay? So understand product knowledge and industry knowledge is very important. And this is something that product support team will organize our product training for the whole company. Okay, so when Sang organized the class, I hope that all people will try to learn about our product and testing. Okay, and also in the previous company, when I was a software engineer, because we do a lot of accounting programming. So I also go to learn accounting. I learned how to do the journal entry. I learned how to read the balance sheet. I learned how to read the financial statement. Because if we don't understand it, then we cannot build a software that our user to use it. So we have to learn the hard skill to grow. Okay. Next slide. Yeah. Now is Q&A tab. Okay. Man in black.
Yeah. We need the mic.
No.
I'm Ben from HR. I'm an intern from HR. I'd like to ask on behalf of the younger candidates who perhaps are still feeling lost in what they want to achieve in their career, or has not yet identified the right motivation. So I'm asking you both as seasoned leaders, older leaders, what do you think is the prize or the reward of a meaningful reward of pursuing career growth? And perhaps I can guide the younger ones and planning.
Very thought-provoking question. What is the prize of career growth? You know what? I think even before we talk about career growth promotion, it starts with a self-introspection, like understanding yourself. And that's why I was a generalist for a while, because it took me a while to understand myself, like what makes me happy to go to the work that I do, what excites me, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. The price of career growth, if this is, every professional, every working professional wants to grow in their career. Nobody wants to be stagnant. And like I said, growth can mean different things. It could mean moving up in an individual contributor path, becoming a people manager, moving to a different team, moving to a different company in a different role. There's a lot of definition of career growth. But at first I want to make sure that I'm not specifically talking about like the price of a promotion or a salary, because that comes with it, right? There is that monetary motivation, financial motivation for us. I want to move up because I want to earn more, for example. That's one. And one of like I said, it just comes with the territory. But the price is that having a career that you love. Like I said, being able to wake up and get excited. I'm going to my job. It's not just, man, it's Monday again. I have to go to work again. One more week again. The price of career growth, and a deliberate one that you carve for yourself, is a life actually that you like. There's this saying, live to work or work to live. I don't think we want to live to work, right? We don't want our work to define who we are as a person. But if you take charge of your career growth, because this is what you're passionate about, this is what you want to do, this is what you're excited about, then that whole work-life balance thing actually, that's another definition of you're happy with both your professional and your personal life. So I think that's the price of a deliberate and well-intended career growth. But now I know some wouldn't know this right off the bat, and I think if there's one thing I want to say, you don't feel the pressure to know the path very early on. Like I said, it took me, and maybe you wanted a more an accelerated path, but it took me almost a decade to figure out what I want to do with my career. So there's no timeline here, is what I'm saying. Don't put that pressure on yourself to find a timeline. So long as you're happy with what you're doing, you're passionate about what you're doing, it keeps you excited, motivated to do that job every day, you're on the right path. I think that's what matters.
To me, the drive is that if you pick a correct or success in your career path, then you can control your life, you can support your family, and it will reduce a lot of struggle. Okay. I'm lucky enough that I think both myself and my wife quite, I think, success in our career path. So we do not depend on each other. So we don't have to cover other people. So you see what I mean, right? But one thing is time fly a lot, very fast. Okay, and especially in industry, the market now very competitive. Okay, so we need to also pick the career path quick to get it right. Okay, that's it.
So I definitely have a question this way. Maybe we could do that question first, and then I would have my question.
Oh, I want to answer this. It's actually, are you referring to me? How can I approach a conversation about career advancement with my manager if my growth interests lie in another department and ensure it receives positively? Now, maybe it's easy for me to say, maybe not all managers will think this way, but you will really never know until you initiate that conversation. Put this at the table as a consideration. Maybe if you're afraid your manager is going to think you're going to resign from the job and move because you don't know how they will react. Maybe don't put it as a theoretical question rather than I want to move. If you don't feel safe or not safe, if you don't feel confident that it will be received positively. But Sashi, I will tell you, be received positively. Let's talk about it in the next one-on-one.
Sashi, just Angeline because I moved out from her division already. And Angeline really support me with the conversation, so no worry. Good luck.
Yeah, I just want to add a perspective to this question, and then not considering as an HR, okay, I'm just trying to be an individual. I think, of course, Angeline already said that we have an open, culture, right? So it is easy, right, as compared with some organizations that they have more, closed-minded culture. But I think the most critical thing is, no matter you want to grow within your department or across departments, the number one thing is contribution. Because if you do not contribute, if you do not perform, then your line managers cannot be the spokesperson for you to really recommend you to the department that you are targeting. Because we are working in the organization is a small society. So if there's somebody from Angeline's team want to move to HR, for example, I do not have any knowledge or any idea about that person. So I tend to ask Angeline, how is he or she performing? How is he or she acting in the whole group? So number one thing is it go back to you, right? If you want to move out of the department, fine, because that's your career. And I think that I'm sure that in Catalan we do support that. But at the same time, you have to show your commitment and then dedication by performance and contribution. Yeah.
That's a great point, because also, let's say you just have that idea because maybe you supported in the how do you call this, the organization of a team building, and then now you want to be part of the admin team, for example. And let's say you haven't really had that experience. How I would approach this conversation is that, well, I don't think you have the skills. I'll be very upfront. What are the skill sets that you need to be successful in the job that you want to do? Let's work on us. Let's, in the next maybe 1 or 2 quarters or 1 year, let's work on that together so you can get there. And then there goes the development plan. If you want to do more organizing, well, I'll probably assign you more projects where you're doing the organizing, cross-functional collaboration, things like that. And I'm saying this from a point of view of manager and for the managers, people managers here as well, as to how they can support the kind of conversation. Because we already have a very open culture here. And then maybe some people just don't know, okay, so how do I actually approach that? That is actually how I would do. Let's talk about a plan to get you the skill sets that you need to get to that next role that you want.
Yeah, I want to share a little bit more about what Thanh just said about when you show your value, you don't have to add to rotate. Or the manager will want to hunt you. Okay, it happened in my team already, And for example, Hani now she moved to CSF,
Yeah.
and as she tried to steal my people from support to solution engineer. So if you show your value, then not just within your team department, other people will see it, and a lot of opportunity will come. Okay, so showing value is very important.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you all so much for sharing your experience and your perspective. I believe that this resonates so much, especially for younger battalions. And I really like your practices and tips that you mentioned earlier, the 4 tips. So one of them is showcase your team and what you have done. So being an Asian, I think that it's really hard for us to, when I have trouble showcasing what I have done because it's feel weird. I'm not guilty, but feeling weird showing and mentioning what you have done, especially to the manager. And like for me, I had a expectation that whatever I do, I believe that it shows the result, and I would expect that the manager, the management would see that, right? But it feels so weird to say that. But I also know that it's really important that you actually share that you manage, like a manager manage a lot of different employees, right? And not every time that you can remember what they have done, etc. And it's really good to remind them. But at the same time, it's difficult, right? Like it's really difficult for me personally. So do you have any tips, recommendation of how we can do it without like sounding or without coming across as a like really you are bragging of what you're doing?
Yeah, I fully understand that, and my tip is instead of try to show it ad hocly, you create a plan of what you want to achieve to your manager. And every checkup, maybe monthly, quarterly, and you and manager check, hey, I did it as a plan, not, hey, not suddenly come to your boss and say, hey, I just finished this one, that's one out of the plan. And it will, if you plan it well, then the manager will see, okay, this guy know how to plan and how to stick to the plan, and they made what we agreed. So I think it will become easier. Okay? And the tip for manager is you have to encourage the team member to speak up. Okay? Speak up in everything, in idea, in sharing what they success, not just yes, that my advice.
Yeah, I know we're 10 minutes over. But yeah, I think a quick answer to your question is I also like to showcase numbers. Maybe numbers make it a little bit more impersonal, but actually numbers even demonstrate, the impact of what you've done. So maybe instead of saying, oh, I completed this project and this project, what is the outcome of your project? Like, oh, we actually increased the number of X because of what we did. Maybe it helps you to not make it about you and like say, oh, I did this, I completed this, but talk about the results of your work. Maybe that helps a little bit. Make the conversation less awkward for you. Yeah.
We are not an Asian company. We are international, so don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Okay. I think it's time to wrap up, right? Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you everybody online who stayed until right now.